You're about to hear about the day I watched a 25-year-old punk destroy his own father's company because he thought my handwritten Rolodex was outdated. I'm Ken Thompson, 48 years old, and I spent 15 years building relationships that this kid torched in about 15 minutes. The boardroom on the 38th floor always smelled the same: coffee, leather chairs, and that particular scent of money-changing hands. I'd been breathing that air for a decade and a half, working my way up to Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships at Sullivan Hart Holdings. Sounds boring, right? Let me put it this way. When Fortune 500 companies wanted to buy each other, they called me first. See, most people think business happens in spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations. That's amateur hour. Real business happens on golf courses, over bourbon dinners, and in conversations that start with, "My grandfather always said." I learned this from my mentor, Bill Crawford, who taught me that a handshake from the right person was worth more than a 100-page contract from the wrong one. That Thursday morning, I was standing by the window going through my handwritten notes for the biggest deal of my career. $3,000. Andrew Sullivan wanted to sell his family's ranch operations to us, and I'd spent 9 months building that relationship. Not through emails or video calls, but the old-fashioned way. Face-to-face meetings, golf games at his country club in Dallas, and long dinners where we talked about everything except business until dessert arrived. Sullivan Ranch wasn't just another acquisition target. This was 4 generations of family legacy, built from a 200-acre plot his great-grandfather bought in 1923. Andrew's grandfather had survived the Dust Bowl, his father had modernized the operation in the 1960s, and Andrew had turned it into a $4 billion empire. But he was 67 now, his kids weren't interested in ranching, and he wanted to find the right buyer before his health declined further. The key wasn't the $3 billion price tag. The key was understanding what Andrew really wanted: respect for his family's legacy, assurance that the Sullivan name would be preserved, and guarantees that the 400 families who worked those ranches wouldn't be thrown out for efficiency improvements. These weren't line items in a contract. They were promises built on trust. I had all of that trust documented the only way that mattered: in my personal relationship with Andrew, in handwritten notes from our conversations, and in my worn leather Rolodex that contained 15 years of carefully cultivated contacts. Phone numbers that weren't listed anywhere online, private cell numbers written on the backs of business cards from country clubs and charity galas, direct lines to people who made decisions worth billions. That's when the door slammed open. Brad Hamilton walked in like he owned the place, which technically he did. His daddy was VP of operations,